all of us. So first of all, this is Emily. This is Emily Garfield. She is directing Open Studios, Somerville Open Studios this year. If you want, if you are not a part of Open Studios this year, close down registration. But if you want to be part of it, or if you want to volunteer for it, openings for it are still available.
This is the perfect time to volunteer for Open Studios, and then you get involved with everything else that makes it happen.
Loads of fun. I was the marketing coordinator last year, and I had a blast. If you're not doing it, then you come on the first weekend of May. So I guess I should ask, who is doing Open Studios here? Great. So pretty much everybody. That's great. And why there's some people who are not. So that's Emily. Do you have anything you want to add about upcoming things?
I just wanted to say that if you're interested in volunteering for Somerville Open Studios, there's volunteer opportunities listed on our website, somervilleopenstudios.org. There's also a membership meeting a week from today. So next Sunday, 5 to 7 p.m., same time, at Mad Oyster Studios. So also starts with M. Easy to remember. So that's for everyone who is interested in, who is either a member of Somerville Open Studios as an artist or interested in getting involved. So if you want to be a volunteer, you can come to the meeting and meet other people who are involved with it and see what you can do.
And the next one of these talks is going to be at the Nave Gallery in a month on the 16th. Is that 13th?
Thursday, March 13th.
Yes, Thursday, March 13th.
At the main Nave Gallery.
At the main Nave Gallery. Yes. Great. And this is Kara Brickman. Kara is one of the people who runs the Awesome Foundation, which started in Cambridge and now is over lots of the world.
Yeah, about, I can keep track of that.
I know, exactly.
It's about 12 countries and, yeah, 60 chapters.
Yeah, so. And Kara's the dean of the Awesome Foundation, whatever that means, which is fun.
Yeah, I wrangle.
She wrangles. So what the Awesome Foundation does is it gives out a $1,000 grant every month to people who make cool stuff. We do that in Boston. And they do cool stuff, and this is totally no strings attached kind of grant, which is very, very cool. And you can look them up online.
AwesomeFoundation.org. And I'll write it up.
There. And I am Jesa Damora, and I have a arts marketing company called FunnelCake Marketing, which is at Artisans Asylum. And I help artists to market themselves and also to develop what they do as businesses. So I help them with creating what they do as a business. I guess that's, you should say that over and over, it's the same thing. and I've done these talks now here and in New York. This is the third year I'm doing them up in the Boston area. And this one is about engaging the public. So there will be another one which is going to be about refining that search and getting certain people in the door, but this is about getting everybody in the door and about how you connect with the people who are part of your artistic audience. So the first part of this is basically about marketing in general, something that artists don't tend to take too well. And the second part of it is about mailing lists. And so that will be very dry but very informative. And then the third part will be about social media, or more about social media actually. And because Kara is a Twitter expert, and we want you all to have some kind of a handle on it, whether you choose to use it or not, we're going to do a live engagement in it. So at that point, you can take your phones out, and if you don't have your Twitter account, we'll set one up, and we'll start, having fun with it. So the first part, marketing. So how do you get people to pay attention to what you do? This is a question.
I think, first of all, they have to be aware of its existence.
Yes, that's right. That's a very good point. That's a very good start. Somebody else?
You need to have things to actually share.
That's also good. Anybody else? over this side. I want something from over this side.
You need,
Okay.
sorry. You need to know who you want to share with.
And these are probably the 3 main points.
Repeat them.
So that's all right. We'll go through this again, but you have to have something to share, know who you're sharing it with, and have something to share. And I'm going to share something now, which is that when I was 12 years old, I memorized the book Alice in Wonderland, and I memorized the whole book because we had a recording by Cyril Richard, who had a wonderful English accent. It was, extremely formal and it was delicious to listen to, and so everything he said was absolutely wonderful, and I had to copy it. So I listened to him do Alice in Wonderland, and I mimicked, and eventually I learned the entire book. Now, why am I telling you this? This is a marketing thing that I'm doing. This tells you something about me. I'm obsessive, and I like people and like to copy them. I find something wonderful about, accents. I find something wonderful too about copying other people's art, or the way they cook, or the way their hair is done. So you have something similar going on for you too, whatever it is, some story that you can tell like that gives an indication of what you are. And moreover, you have that in relation to what you actually produce as art. And I guess the thing that I want to say about this is that when you share passionately and vividly about something, and it includes the triumphs, the misfortunes, the mistakes, the trials overcome, all those things that make a good story, all those things that appeal to the limbic part of the brain, people will pay attention to you because it's wonderful to hear. And the myth makers of ancient Greece knew this. Those people who do the living statues in Harvard Square. Anybody ever see the 10-Foot Bride of Amanda Palmer? Do that? So they didn't have to do anything, and yet people remember their stories. Now, this is all about narrative. So word story, narrative, some sort of thing that you can latch onto that's not data. You may think that you can't tell a story, but in fact, any cool conversation you have with anybody where anybody gets heated up about something, that is a conversation. That's a story. That's a story. And it doesn't have to be a particular way, but it has to be about this time you dug yourself out of the snowbank. It has to be about this time that you drove to Montreal. It has to be about this piece of art that you've been creating, not stuff in general, not snowbanks in general, because people are interested in your experience of it. This is why progress photographs are so important. People love being involved in what you make, whether it's music, or whether it's, if you were doing Black MIDI, people want to know, what you did to get there. Because nobody knows what Black MIDI is, and then they discover it and they go, holy crap, So who does not know what Black MIDI is here? All right, so now you want to look it up, right? Write it down and look it up. Okay. So, oh, by the way, that's another part of marketing in a way, because now I'm giving you something to take home with you. Right? Now you're involved. So if you're posting progress stuff online, it's not complete, is it? People can live into that. People can say, what are you going to do here? You're going to have an exchange with them. And actually it can lead you in some cool direction, right? So what makes a good story? Technique, completeness, good English. So it doesn't have to be complete, and it doesn't have to be particular. You don't have to write well. And if you don't spell well, here's a quote from Benjamin Franklin: people who can't think of more than one way to spell a word have poor imagination. right, so now I'm going to talk about marketing in general a bit. Generally, as artists, especially who examine the world in a more direct way, perhaps than many people, we have a bad relationship with it because, speaking of rap, it's got a bad rap. And this is justified. There's a lot of manipulation, objectification, greed, deception, boringness. It's alien. It's not art. I happened to spend a couple of years living at the house of a guy named Edward Bernays. He was found in public relations. He was in his 80s. This is when I was going to school. There was no room on campus, so I went to Harvard Housing, and I, older gentleman wants somebody to stay there to prevent him from falling down the stairs. Well, so I lived there for 2 years. I met everybody in the world. I made dinners for him, and I get to sit down and listen to him extemporize over things. See, I can't even talk about it now. And he was in his 80s and remained able to do wonderful embedded parentheticals and long add-on sentences until he was 102. But he was responsible for women smoking by pulling together all these threads of the fashion world and stuff. He got doctors to say that bacon was good for you. He was extremely manipulative, and in later life he tried to change this. But he's responsible for the way advertising and marketing is these days, unfortunately. This is not what we're doing. This is changing. This is all changing. Because we can't tolerate this, can we? This is not where we're at right now. We're in a sharing society. We're in a society where people look at each other not as objects. We do not want to be the kind of people who are hired to sit in bars and shill something. We're not going to do that, right? Yeah. So we're not going to talk with our clientele that way either. So what is marketing then for you guys? Well, it's not this. It's not leverage your people potential, harness the power of relationship marketing and social media for global success. Social leads and demand generation, specialists driving online traffic, increase your website conversion and processes, something on LinkedIn.
That's my part.
And so I don't like using the words marketing because they're like so overused, nobody knows what they are. It's exhausting. Branding, all this stuff. Right, we get numb to it. So what do? You tell your story and you include 4 things. So there's only 4 things. I understand. Here's another story. I was right-handed. I am now, as of 4 years ago, left-handed because I lost the use of this arm for neck injury. I used to do these incredible, complicated drawings that take 400 hours. I don't do those anymore. Instead, I do, first I started with finger painting. That was fun. And then I started getting knife skills with my left hand, doing mobiles, and now I'm going to do copper welding. Okay? So this is another thing that tells you something, that is not just something about me, but something about humanity, in a way. It's like, yeah, we find silver linings in things. So what is it about your work that appeals to other people, that they can find themselves in? Now, that's going to be a smaller group than all of humanity. So, if you do paintings of lions and robots, it's going to be quite a small section of humanity, but you can find it because actually there are lots of people out there like that. Right? So what you think, maybe, is that the value of what you do for others is in what you've made. And that's partly true, but it's also in you. I like to say this to people, and you can write this down. A sale is only the artifact of a relationship. People want a piece of you, as much as they want art. And I guess a good example of this is, just take, so Steve Jobs, right? It's like when people think of Apple, they they don't think of Ronald Wayne or Steve Wozniak. They think of Steve Jobs. He's the person who's identified with Apple. And there's some things that I'm trying to think of this. Okay, so some art doesn't actually exist without the person who made it. When you think of Salvador Dali, you think of his mustache. A lot of people don't even know his art. I've found this is true with Picasso too. People, know this personality, Picasso, because he was so outrageous, but they can't really place his art. And then there's people like, Elvis. Try and imagine Elvis as somebody who never showed up on stage, who instead, was a traffic and pollution mitigation officer at the local city department of highways. And we never saw him. What would his music? His music would be great, but it would not be the moves, right? So you are important. You are important. That's point number one. Two, the second point is that to tell a story well, it has to include the world around you, culturally, geographically, family. These things are important. Community, politics, your art, whatever you do, whether it's dance, whether it's even if you're a maker, you're making shoes, or you're making whatever you're doing, it relates to wherever you are, your context. It doesn't stand independent of that. Has anybody picked one of the seeds out of Ai Weiwei's mini sunflower seeds?
I was very tempted, but
yeah,
I restrained because you were
supposed to. But every one of those seeds it was not a seed. It was a porcelain, handmade porcelain. What was all of this about? Well, so it was about.
Well, his story. So
his story.
Amazing, epic, yeah.
Yeah, and so you picked, this little seed out of it related to this backpack project, and it was all about these big cultural movements and stories that could not be really spoken about in any other way, and which were pretty damn profound when looked at in the manner that you created them. That's your art as well. It exists in relation to something. And it is important for you to know what that is. You have to know your lineage, so to speak. What has contributed to where you are today? The third part bears on that as well. That is the third part, actually. So I want to say a little bit more about that. So I'll read you this. Here's a request for proposal. It's for an exhibit of social sculpture, performance, and video at the Parthenon Museum of Art, Centennial Park and Amphitheater in Nashville, Tennessee. You could do your execute. The South is the fattest and unhealthiest region of the United States. In an effort to address this epidemic and other health-related issues, the Parthenon Museum has accepted a proposal for a participatory art project titled Flex It, My Body, My Temple, from the social practice artist Adrian Outlaw. Now, a large thread of art these days is about social involvement, critique, and participation. So yours may not be. It may be tidal estuaries, pictures of tidal estuaries, but you have to think of what else is going on as you do this, because if you ignore it, then you wind up being one of these estuaries and, stuck in a little boat up at the end of it. You can't go around not knowing what's going on. So your stories need to reflect these connections. And 4, marketing is a conversation. It's a two-way street. So it's not just about, pushing stuff out there. It's about getting stuff back. So in a way, you can think of marketing as relationships and sales as exchanges. Now, let's see, and this is where you have to differentiate yourself a bit. So there are thousands of other people, for instance, doing flowers. I draw flowers. That's one of the things that I used to do. Why are my flowers different? You need to figure out that.
that's a big thing that comes in with applications for the Awesome Foundation.
Yes.
And, you know, there's really great, and then there's people's voice that sets them apart from what makes somebody's flowers different. And I think that that's something that really resonates for me with what we do.
I'm going to talk about this part later, but I need to move on here. So you need to figure out who you're having a relationship with. Now we're moving on to the part about mailing lists. Okay? So how do you figure out who you have a relationship with, and how do you keep track of and nurture these? You need lists. You can't keep them all in your mind. You can't keep them all in little boxes, you know, with little pieces of paper in them and pieces of business cards and goodness knows what else. And you can't keep them in an Excel list on your desktop computer either. And you can't keep it on paper. Handy is what the byword is. It helps you put a finger on not only who you know, but in what context you want to connect with them. And you want to be able to spread the word about what you do to people selectively. What you send to the press is going to be different and in a different format than what you send to the people you know who are very close to you, your family, are going to be different from the things that you send out to people who signed your little, you know, book at your opening, who you don't know yet, but who are interested in keeping track of what you're doing. So this differentiation is according to use, location, timing, and who's getting it. So you may be sending something to people in a different city, for example. You want to be able to sort through them without having to scroll through the list of zip codes. Then there are the folks who like your cartoons of lions and robots, but don't really care for your photos of cake, although there may be some overlap. And you don't want to bore one group with stories meant for the other. With the press, things are incredibly specific. They're not an invitation. I recently did some publicity for a major gallery, well-known gallery in New York. And they sent out, this guy's, you know, he's got his following, all right? But he sent out everything as an email marketing newsletter. There was no way to download photographs. There was no link to the artist's bios. I mean, you know, it's crazy. His audience could have been so much bigger if he had done that. And if you're courting the press, you'll want to send everybody an individual note, because you can imagine how many things that people get. They want to be regarded as people. I said that at the beginning. We all want to be people. They don't want to just get a mailbox full of stuff. So you have to figure out how to connect with them, and Twitter is a fabulous place to do this. The main difference between Twitter and Facebook is that Twitter is all public. Facebook, you can, well, it's one of the main differences. In Facebook, you can set all these different levels of privacy, but on Twitter, you're out there. So if you follow somebody and they follow you, you can comment. You can say anything to anybody. It's a great way to get to know somebody. You want to get to know Patty Johnson? Just get in her stream of conversation. Pretty easy. So, does everybody know who Patty Johnson is? Patty Johnson is a really great writer and critic and knows everybody, and she is the main person at the source of Archivag City. Archivag City is one of the biggest publications about art. You should know it. It's like Hyperallergic. It's like, what else? This is Colossal. It's just somebody you should know.
And she goes on there and she tells you where she's going to be.
Yes.
Chances are.
Right.
So you can
You
go
can
there
meet her.
and just meet her, and it's
That's right.
much more organic, sort of a way to
Experience.
get to know somebody.
Right. So once you start categorizing stuff on your list, so you want a useful list where you can do this, you start seeing what the gaps are. And so if you have, like, you know, a bunch of cake photos, maybe you simply see that you should add this particular magazine, which will say, oh, I haven't thought of this in terms of, you know, where the places that, you know, show cake photographs. Suddenly, like, dawns on you that you have to look into them. And once you've got, say, 3 contacts who do institutional collecting, and you start wondering who else does this, you start connecting with people to find that out, you start doing research. And you might be able to find somebody who can make an introduction for you. So this is one of the reasons that lists is useful. So there's different kinds of relationships that you have with people on your list. You have to figure out what yours are. You are not going to sell your work to everybody. You have to figure out who might want to buy it or be interested in it. People aren't cell phones, cabbages, and whatever. They sell one thing. People buy, they don't buy everything. They buy a particular range of things. And you have to find out who else sells what you're doing as well. They're both your competitors and also people who can be your allies. So cutting the list this other way, one is a personal list, one is a permission-based mailing list, and then there are lists not actually in your possession, and these are affinity-based lists and general public lists. I'll say that again. There's personal lists, permission-based bulk mailing lists, lists not actually in your possession, and these are divided into affinity-based lists and general public lists. So the first one is everybody you know. My list is about 2,500, maybe 3,000 people right now. I don't have it organized properly, but my new administrative assistant is going to help me with that shortly. I have a friend who, he has a list of people he regularly checks in with that tops 4,000. I know this sounds absolutely crazy. Not all men are limited to 700 books a day. He is amazing. And so these are the people that you send personal emails to as snail mails. You don't have permission to send them bulk mails unless they are also part of group number 2, which is your email marketing list. This is a usually much larger bunch who have opted to receive your bulk emails, so they've signed your book. These are people you'd like to put on MailChimp or out as a postcard blast, or even connect with on a blog. And because they've opted in to hear about you, you better damn well keep in touch with them and regularly. The third category, which is composed of 2 levels, is first a group with which you have an affinity. People who are actually automatically interested in the topic that you have to share. You're a jeweler and you're part of a jewelry forum, for example. Or like me, you're an architect and a member of the American Institute of Architects. And then there's the general public. And you don't know them, but you know they're out there, and you know that somebody there is interested in seeing your work. They are reached by calendar listings, articles, and of course, ads. They are not automatically, connected to you or interested in what you're doing, but they're likely to be drawn in if what you're talking about is nearby or out of the ordinary, or likely in some way, such as an afternoon activity for kids. If you happen to be doing, as the Artisans Asylum did recently, a trebuchet competition on the Common in Cambridge. That was a big draw for kids. Catapulted balloons full of water. It's great. Kids love it. So now that you have lists, what do you do with them? This may seem obvious, but there are a bunch of categories. And you actually have a group of different tasks. Now, I know that what I'm talking about is kind of dry here. You can see by your faces you're all being, really good, trying to listen. It's also extremely useful. You may not have more than a couple of hundred. Okay, I should ask this. Who has 400 people that they send out invitations to? Whoa! Really? No more than 400? Yeah, wow. Okay, so 200. 200. 100. Okay. This is your mother speaking. You have to do this. You have to send out invitations. You have to make a list of the people who like your work. People like you. They do. And you have to just keep in touch with them. That's it. Okay? And you may start out with a small list, but things have this way of growing, right? They have this way of going. And once it grows, all of a sudden it's just like this big mess, okay? And you want to be like set up so that it isn't a mess at that point. You want to be able to use it. You want to be in New York and say, oh my God, who's that artist that I have to see here that's not on my phone? Oh God, what is that? Papers, whatever. So what to do with lists? And all of this is on my Facebook page. It will shortly be on my website. I'm going to skip most of this because I want to get to the actual social media part here. But I will say that you need, in a general way, to set up a CRM, which is customer relations management. This may seem overblown. You've got 100 people, but as I've said, if you're going to get the word out about what you do, you will have 110 and then 130. And by the time you get to 180, you'll really stop forgetting who's who or why you should be talking to them. And so you want to keep track of it. An easy and low-hanging fruit way of taking care of it is to have your contacts in Gmail and to use all of their tabs and their categories to divide things up. So if you have just one person and they're let's say they're an artist, and they were once a client, and all these are categories you can assign them, and they're in New York, okay? And then there's another category, there's your mother's friend, so family category, suburbs of Boston, another category, and they're a critic, another category. So you can sort this list in Gmail for all of these different things. You can sort for all the critics. You'll discover you only have 2 people who are critics on your list. That's generally not enough. So you'll know that the gap, like I was saying before, that you probably want to get more critics to get to know what you do. Or you might discover that you really haven't made the opportunity to get to know all the local press. In Somerville, there's 3 or 4 newspapers, there's some people online who spread the word about things. These should all be people who are aware of you. It's low-hanging fruit.
And a good thing to do is also to use technology to augment your memory. Because as you're growing this base of people, you're able to then reinforce your memory with faces. What's the press person's dog's name? Right. What is their wife's name? Do they have a kid? Do they not? Do they like to garden? Little
Stuff like that. Because you're actually dealing with people. All of these people who will amount to all of these people are actually people. I know that sounds like it's true, right? And I can't keep that stuff. My husband can do that. I'm very jealous of him. And one more thing about this before we move on to social media is that never build your house on somebody else's land. So if you have a contact list somewhere online in the cloud, make sure that you've got it also someplace else. If you lose that, oh my God, it's horrible. And this has happened to me, and that's why I say that. So for instance, if you use your Facebook page or your Twitter feed to get to know people, make sure you also have that information someplace else so that if it disappears, and things can happen to Facebook, my goodness, all the time. Are we surprised? Yes?
Oh, no, sorry.
Sorry. And so you want to have some other place that you keep important information. You, Mr. Social Media Expert, have you anything to say about that?
No, I'm just going to say the next one.
Yeah, we have another social media expert in the audience here. He's actually going to give you a talk in a week here.
On Friday.
On Friday? Yeah, on
Social media.
on social media.
And your name is? Arthur.
Yeah. So you get, a second chance at this. So now we're going to move on to social media, which is really awesome because it eliminates the barriers of geography, cost, and time. And on the other hand, it can take up a lot of time. So there's ways of doing this. Kara is going to start with, I guess, are we going to do just the Twitter thing, or you want to talk a little bit about the different ones, so you can explain it?
I can do an overview of what the difference is between different platforms and what you might want to use them for. And Twitter, I think specifically, is a really good place to start because a lot of it aggregates out to all the other, there's open APIs where the people who build the software.
APIs?
I don't even know if I know what an API
API stands for?
Application Programming Interface.
Thank you.
I just use it, I don't even know what it means.
Right, that doesn't mean you're going to be a programmer and use the thing, but.
Yeah. But it's like all of these different technologies communicate with one another, and the more dominant ones, like Twitter, are usually ones that you can use to sign into other things, and so it kind of gives you a way to manage your public identity in a way that's less fragmented and less overwhelming. And I kind of like to start with where I started with Twitter. I have a lot of friends who are in technology and who are programmers and know what APIs are and build them. And I pay attention to them, and I am up on my computer screen all day because it's like my water cooler, like so that I don't feel like I'm talking to the plants or anything. My friend Adam, he works in the cloud, he said, "You have to get on Twitter, Kara. You have to get on Twitter. It's the biggest thing. It's amazing. It's amazing." And I went on there, and there was some guy in Taipei had a burrito, and I was like, "Why do I care that a guy in Taipei just ate a burrito?" And that's what I wrote. That was my first tweet. I was just like, I don't know why I need to know that some guy in Taipei just had a burrito. And then I left it for a couple months, and I came back to it as a tool for going to networking events, like this one, for instance. If you put a tweet out with the Talk SOS, the hashtag Talk SOS, you can go back later, search for that. You can find the people here in this room, follow them, and say, "Hey, let's get together, let's have a cup of coffee." Or you can just kind of start to expand your understanding of the physical community around you. And then I thought about it like, oh, this is actually kind of useful because I'm at a conference and I'm tweeting to this hashtag, and then I'm meeting the person across the room at a break, and I'm making connections, and I'm able to kind of follow along, and it helps reinforce the fact that I cannot remember people's names until I've had at least 3 conversations with them. And then I'm thinking, as a cultural piece, like in Taipei, it's probably hard to get a burrito. Like there's probably not a lot of burrito places out there, and so I kind of rethought my initial disgust, and that's just with every platform that comes along. I find I have a similar reaction. I'll be like, what is this, and why do I need it? And then I'll just kind of come back to it. And I think that's a healthy way to engage with technology in general, is to test the water.
Yeah, and another thing is you may find that probably will find that there's some that you really can't relate to, and some that feel a little bit better. Seth Godin, who is possibly the biggest social marketer out there, has written all sorts of books. He doesn't use Twitter, he doesn't use Facebook, never looks at them. What he does is blog. This is his big thing, blogging. But he has an automatic feed from his blog to Twitter and to Facebook so that people can engage there. But he never engages back. That's really interesting. But he has this wonderful following. So there you go. You may decide that it's only Instagram for you, or mine is it. And these days, another way of doing it, and I have a client who does this, is her social media is handwritten letters in fine fountain pen on nice paper.
Oh, no.
She's designing, she does wallpaper for high-end people, high-end clients, costs a ton, it's all individually made. And they don't want to be part of any list, they want to be all treated individually. Her clientele is no bigger than about 400 people, so she can manage to do this. And she supplements it with some inserts sometimes of like postcards of things that she's been doing. But they really appreciate this, and boy, does she get, good responses from it. Yes, you're right.
I just was wondering how you feel about Hootsuite and if that's something that you use.
I think that I play around and I kind of jump around. I don't have an exclusive relationship with any client, which a client is basically a piece of software or an interface that somebody has written to interact with Twitter. And so there's all sorts of reasons why you would want to use some and why you wouldn't want to use some. I prefer TweetDeck, personally. This is the only thing that's really stuck with me. I've done Hootsuite. It's hard to say. I think that it's really, what I tend to do is I try out like 10 at a time, and I see which one has a feature that figures out, that solves a problem that I've been having about trying to manage the information that's going out and coming in through social media. So I think this is a good tool. And for some people, it could just not work with the way that their brains are organized and categorized, but it's reputable.
I find that it's, so if you don't get the paid version, it has a little branding on it when you post, and I find that that's offensive. I don't like it when I get it, and so I don't like to impose that on other people. So you have to see what that means to you. Okay. Yes?
You mentioned that some people feed their blog out to Facebook and Twitter, but then never use Facebook and Twitter, so they never reply to anything that people respond with. I think you start to lose your followers.
Yeah, I think that's only for very famous people. Because the currency of any of this is that it is social, which means back and forth.
There are some also great tools that you can use to push out to multiple networks at once. My favorite is Path. I mean, I look a little silly doing it because it takes me longer to compose the tweet, because I'm basically, at the same time that I'm composing a message, I'm thinking about the format of Twitter. It's connected to Facebook. I can push it to Foursquare, and then it'll take me maybe 3 times as long to do a status update. But I can send it out to any one of any one of 5 different networks. And it's called Path. It's like a mini. It's what people who used to be able to use Twitter for in the beginning, who are now maybe have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. Now the smaller circle, you're limited to, I think, 250 or something like that. I don't know, I've never even gotten close to being at the top of that. But, for me, it has an Instagram-ish sort of a feel to it. You can take your pictures and you can do your check-ins and you can push it to Facebook, and then I can also push it to Twitter, and then, different people will react on different networks. And then I don't have to sit there and cross-post, although I do. A lot of times I'll just, kind of figure out, I just put this thing on Facebook. I'll just put it on Twitter, but I'll have to reformat it. And then, bam. But, there are tools out there that if you spend a little bit more time, and it's important to you. If it's not important to you to be in 3 or 4 different places with one check-in or one press of the button, just don't even bother with it. You don't need to. But there are things out there that can help you manage reaching out to different kinds of niches.
Yeah. And I want to say that what Kara was suggesting about getting your feet wet and things is really the way to go. Just do do that, see whether it works. I have a client who is on 7 different kinds of social media. One of them is, say it's a kind of social media, it's Etsy. She's regularly featured, so she's one of the top 1% on Etsy. And she knows how to work it. But she never spends more than an hour a day on all of these together. And I think that's amazing. And she gets most of her sales off of Facebook, which is like also amazing, especially now that the algorithm has been changed so that they dumb down the how much you see a professional page. So it is possible to have some mastery over this and not be eaten alive by it.
It's also, I think it's also as you experiment, I think it's important to keep in mind that part of the process is that at times you're going to feel a little eaten alive by it, but you can just you can snap it back, and you can go, you can deactivate your Facebook, you can there are ways you can manage it. You don't have to do everything all at once, although it is good to have a consistent presence and to claim your namespace.
Yes.
That is, I think, the most important thing.
So even if you're not going to use some of this stuff, you should
I'm Kara.
Right.
So I'm Karabee because I don't know, that was what was available when I was looking for my thing, and it's as short as possible. The shorter your user handle is, the better it is, especially when you're limited to 140 characters. If somebody retweets you and your name is 11 characters, then that's a little bit negative.
Eat funnel cake.
I didn't have any problem with
Oh,
that. Because it's fun to write eat funnel cake. There has to be like an exchange for that.
Yeah.
Like I'll give it a couple more characters because it's definitely much more noticeable. But I think that the idea is that somebody knows that you're like, I'm Kara on Pinterest, I'm Kara on Facebook, I'm Kara on Twitter, and I just kind of go and I claim it, and where people have already gone and claimed my name, I'm Miss Kara. I kind of can have a way that people can have a sense, like, when find me from network to network, and sometimes that enriches relationships, like, people will, Instagram will have conversations going, and then we'll go over to Twitter and Facebook and whatever, and they'll know that it's the same picture, it's the same name, and I just stuck my flag right there in it. It's just a lot less confusing for you and for the people that are wanting to follow you.
Yep. Shall we start the rockets, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an engagement. Right, you have phones? Where's your phone? Oh, no. Who here has a Twitter account? I want to hear, get the hands up here, please, when you see them. Thanks. Who does not have a Twitter account? Okay. We're going to ask you to set one up. And you can always deactivate it, kill the app later. But we're going to ask you to set one up. And who here has a Facebook account? Who does not have a Facebook account? Okay. There you go. So,
We need darker.
yeah, we need a.
There we go.
We're working on it here.
Here we go. How's that working?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's put the SOS one at the top.
The talk SOS.
Yes.
Yes, I'm just going to put down like a list of things that you're doing.
Yeah. You can actually, those of you who are on Twitter, you can actually, you've got this now. Because this is what this was like invented for, right? It was like, I'm in the middle of this and this guy is presenting this amazing thing, and and we'll meet you for drinks afterwards, right? So.
And then you can prove that you love the house, and that and that you're doing something interesting to yourself, and you can remember it later. That's another bonus of live streaming.
Exactly.
Just don't get robbed.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I suppose so. I think you just have to write about your pit bulls all the time. So if you're writing anything about something that we're talking about or a question that you have, if you put in there the number sign and talk SOS in it, then anybody here, and I have on my phone a search for this hashtag, will see the stream. And anybody who goes home and uses it later will see it. And so you'll be a part of the record of this event. And so the other thing to do is...
And you'll be able to see it on the SOS website too, to go and see the stream.
And so you can be like, hi, Kara B. And you can say, your penmanship is really wonderful, I love it. And you can interact with me here. We can continue the conversation afterwards. You can, I don't know, you can see the cute pictures of my brother's dog.
You can put out Emily's. What is Emily's? What's your...
My Twitter handle?
Yeah.
At Emily Garfield.
At Emily, all one word?
Tweeting right now about this. It's very meta.
Okay.
All one word. At Emily Garfield. Garfield.
What's Somerville Open Studios?
At Somerville OS.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to tweet at me personally, but that's what it is.
Well, I want to say,
So
I
if
want to
you,
make up some stuff so you can say something.
Just be aware that it's not really a private conversation anybody can look in on.
Yes. Yes.
that's the point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the point.
It's like you love the house, you're doing something really exciting, like, and you're also giving cues to the people who are following you more passively of the things that you're involved in. But yeah, you're putting it out there.
If I start something with @Kara, I think only you see it by default, but anybody who wants to can find it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always confused me a little bit.
Yeah, with the app, then somebody specific.
These are accounts, and these are topics.
Yeah, or another way of saying it is this is a little room where something's happening that you all know about, and this is people who might be going there.
But they're both searchable.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're both searchable.
With
So,
with the at replies, I think someone was asking about that, whether you're going to see it, whether that's public. It is if you search for it, or if you look at the person's feed, you can see their at replies, but not if you're subscribed to them. You don't see it in your timeline.
Like if I were to be writing, so my friend, I don't even know who @Dave is. I'm sure it's going to be very important because they got Dave, and that was very early in Twitter. But let's just say that I'm having a conversation with @Dave, whoever he is. If somebody follows me and Dave, can see our conversation. If they only follow me, they don't see the things that start out with me going, @Dave, I just ate a burrito, just, something like that, whatever the example is. But if I put a period in front or of the @ sign here, like that, then everybody who sees my feed sees that, not just the people who follow both of us in the conversation. So it's one way, like if there's something that an exchange that you're having with another individual that you want there to be some sort of awareness, or you think that people might get some use out of, that's one path around it.
But even if you leave out that period, it's still not private, it's just harder to find.
No, this is making it more public.
No, I'm saying if you don't have that period.
Yeah,
If I
it's
say
not about it.
it's not hidden or private, it's just not it's easy to find.
Nothing is really, privacy is I think an evolving notion that I think with technology you have to sit down before you figure out how you're going to engage and what you're comfortable sharing, what you're not comfortable sharing, and what the purpose of sharing different kinds of information are. And you are giving up a certain amount of privacy in exchange for access to people and audiences and connections. But it's an exchange. You're making a choice. And a lot of the problem is I think that as social media has evolved, the choice has not always been clear and the user policies changed. And I just assume that, I just kind of assume that even with the Facebook different levels of privacy, there are ways that it gets around. There are ways there are loopholes. It's like the law.
Right.
It'll kind of come back in some sort of precedence in some way or another. So as long as you have that awareness, it's not a big deal. But you just have to realize that you are putting out a piece of yourself into the public sphere.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable with it and you're making a narrative out of that, then that's
What you
really
have to
fine.
confront is if you're doing something for which you need the public's attention, you need the public's attention.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. I want to interrupt for a moment and ask if people who do not have Twitter accounts have been setting them up. Yeah? Did you manage to do that successfully? Yes. That's great. So, did you figure out how to do a tweet?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Yeah, so you start with the @ to somebody. Okay? You do one of these things here. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, thanks. And at a certain point, it will give you the option of like, get all the people you know on Twitter. Like that little thing will come up, and they'll say, access your,
Oh, that's another important thing in terms of identity. If you create an account with, like, let's just say you have your main Gmail account, and you want to create a different, separate, secret identity. Maybe you're playing around with writing about something that you just don't necessarily want
everybody to know about it.
Yeah,
In
like,
association with you.
in association with you. With open APIs, if you use your main email address to create those accounts that you are using to publish that kind of information, it will get connected back to you.
Yeah, that's why I have 3 accounts and I have 3 emails.
Yeah, I mean that's just one thing just to be aware of. Just because I know that there are some people who I've worked with at jobs, and all of a sudden there's maybe a word that rhymes with bore in their username, and they're maybe experimenting with different parts of their personal life. But I just didn't necessarily. I don't think that they necessarily wanted me to make that connection. But the open APIs, that's kind of how that affects your privacy in that way. Rhymes. But not.
Store.
Yes, candy store.
I'm just curious if you did the password too, because I don't have a smartphone, I don't have that.
Email Broadway, all lowercase, one word.
Okay, you remember right?
Has anybody not been trying to, does anybody need help setting up this account? I was asked by an audience member to address what Facebook is as part of this. I think that I would. Okay. What is Moroccan food? So that's a really big question. But are you going to cover that as a lot part of what you do on Friday?
I'm going to go in depth in
Yeah, so you should
in
come
showing
on
what it
Friday.
looks like.
So you should come on Friday. The reason that I like Facebook is because it's visual. And it's the reason I like Tumblr, and that's the reason I don't use Tumblr.
Pinterest.
And Pinterest.
Oh my God, Pinterest.
Pinterest, okay? So if you're in the arts, you're in the visual arts, anything that you can see with your eyes, you got to use one of these. You have to use one of these. How are people going to see what you do? Twitter can be used this way, but it's not the ideal medium. However, there's a lot of people who use it. I mean, Winkleman in New York. Ed Winkleman uses it. Who knows who Ed Winkleman is? Ed Winkleman. Look it up. WINKLEMAN. He writes a blog. Everybody in the art world reads it. Okay. He uses Twitter.
The other thing is that not to just think about this as an extra to do. Like these different networks and mediums, you can be muses. You can find it. You can go and you can see. What was it that I just saw for the Austin Foundation? I know that I'm always looking for images that are inspiring and different projects like that. And since it is a visual medium, you know, I can go on there and like, I wanted to have a dinosaur birthday party because we turned 3, and when you turn 3,
You want to have a dinosaur party.
You have a dinosaur party when you're 2 years old. And so I went and I looked up all the different dinosaur things, and you know, so I was exposed to creators on all different levels, and then I was able to take what I was, you know, able to execute and go with that. But you can use it as a broad muse. You can use it as a way to record your thoughts. You can use it as a way to connect to other people.
And by the way, you can download your entire feed through to your computer if you want. Through, you know, historically, I have a friend who published a novel backwards on Twitter, so that you can read it forwards.
That is.
I know.
I want that address.
Yes, I know. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And going back to Facebook for a moment, it's really the visual imagery of you get things visually much more quickly than you do by words. And so if you're posting a lot of images, not only your own, but other people's, all this stuff that I talked about before, context, history, you can like pull that into the picture and give people an idea like this of where you stand with things, and in the process help out other people and not talk so much about yourself, which is something else that maybe we should discuss at some point along the way here. You don't want to be talking about you all the time.
Or if you do it in a way that I think would be interesting to other people,
But I think
like relatable to other people.
If you're a humorist or something, you know.
Yeah.
I think people want to get to know your personality. They don't want to know every time you list something on Etsy.
Right.
Oh, that
No,
drives
like-
me bonkers.
No.
And then
I
when you
don't
favorite a
follow
YouTube
that.
video, I don't need to know that unless I want to go on YouTube and stalk you and figure out like everything that you're watching, which I can do. But like that sort of thing, like if you have all these different social networks that automatically post to Facebook or to Twitter, or if you use hashtags a lot on Facebook and like you're talking to like basically your social network and the people that maybe aren't as tech savvy or whatever, then you're basically like flipping a switch off in their brain because it's just something that they're not quite understanding. And so if you want to flip the switch off, that's fine. But you just have to be conscious that your finger's on the trigger, you know.
I mean, and what I do is I have 2 separate pages, one for my artwork, one for myself. And
Yeah.
my artwork page, that's one that's connected to my Twitter account, and then my personal page. For that reason, people don't really care about what I'm doing or that. I mean, like lesser friends with me are like already on Facebook.
Yeah, it's like you give people a chance to segment themselves, and you know that's these are just information aggregators. That's what Facebook is.
Yeah,
that's what Twitter is.
Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe it's for another time or something like that, but from the commercial aspect of things, I always get calls from the directory and illustration saying, want me to be put in the black book and advertise with them and things like that. And it's
Art New England, and I'm going to say this is on film, okay, they're doing this thing where they publish this book. It's $189 a year to be part of it. It's a registry of artists. This is really not a helpful thing. It's a physical thing. It can't change. Nobody's really going to buy it. It's a pointless vanity subscription. Don't do that. You know, putting a full page ad, I don't know if you can afford to put a full page ad in Art New England every month, but unless you're going to do it regularly, you know, there's an old adage in advertising that is somebody needs to see or be engaged with you at least 7 times before they actually act on something. Do we have the money to pay for 7 ads? I don't know. And then you have to keep it up. So it's
But
all this
could
stuff.
you write 7 guest posts for a
Right.
blog.
Right.
Like, I mean, that is costing you something in the time, the energy, and the intellectual property that you're giving out. But it's a different sort of interaction. You know, you just come at it. The more creative you get, I think the more solutions like you'll find in terms of reaching other audiences.
Can I answer one more question? Which brings us back, I want to pull this talk back to the purpose of the talk, which is how to make people come to your church, people come to your studio. Well, this is how you do it. You have to reach out, let people, remember, you have to have something to share. You have to let people know that you have it, and you have to reach out to the right people. So this, all that we've been talking about is that. And I wanted to also point out, the second question here is where should you promote the weekend of Open Studios? And I wanted to say something about that, which is that there is already publicity that Somerville Open Studios itself does for the entire event. So anything you do, you should kind of listen to whatever's going on there, because if Somerville Open Studios is trying to get an article about it in a local newspaper, and they probably will publish something about it, they probably won't listen to anything that you send them as an individual press release because they got it covered. On the other hand, if you sent something to your hometown in Lima, Iowa, about it, you know, local kid makes good, right? They're in an open studio showing their art. The largest weekend open studio in the country. Second.
It's the second largest.
Yes, I know, but it's not going to be the third because it's at Cambridge. Cambridge decided to bunch all of their open studios together into one weekend, to put it the weekend before ours. I'm not going to say anything further about that. It is the Twin Cities, Minneapolis.
Oh, not Tulsa. Oh.
They're the largest one in open studio.
What's the metric?
Per capita or?
Yeah, number of participating artists.
Well, we had 425 this last year. I don't know what the St. Paul and Minneapolis was, but it was more than
I
that.
mean, you can't really count viewers or participants.
No, you can't, because it's very hard to get a handle on. All you can know is who's
Registered
registered.
artists, yeah.
So as far as that goes, that's what we're basing on.
Murder's obviously the best.
That's the right word measuring from.
So please.
Were there any other questions about any of the specific tools or anything that you touched on or haven't touched on?
Do we want to tweet anything? Like you want like?
Well, I don't think that
I didn't know that thing about the dot.
Oh, yeah, that's just a trick. Stick with me.
Is there anything that anybody else wants?
So what is that dot mean again?
What?
What is that dot mean again?
The dot, it's just basically a way, so that it's like this little hack of the system so that you can have it so that if you're having a conversation with another user, unless somebody is following both you and the other user, they don't see that conversation. But if there's something that you think is worth sharing, that you're trying to collaborate with and publicize with another person, you put this little dot here, or maybe you put some other symbol, something. Maybe it's not the magic dot. Probably other things work, or if you just don't start out the sentence with the other username, then it appears in the feeds of people who just follow you or who just follow them. It just kind of it's just something to do with how Twitter shows information to its users.
Yeah. There was some information about tightening up Facebook, tightening up professional pages.
So Facebook is always evolving, and they have in October they decided they needed to monetize in a different way than they had been. And so they throttled the number of people that actually see posts on your professional page. And they did it very, very dramatically. So, if you had 500 people seeing the post, just per se, you might only have 50 about that. So
Unless you have a paid corporate account.
Yeah, that's how they try.
That's a different, yeah.
That's how they try and convert you.
Yeah, that's how they try and convert you, or pay for ads.
Right.
What's the
Yeah.
difference between, I mean, like, when you're setting up a Facebook page, what's the difference between setting up a personal and a professional?
So a personal page, you have to friend people, they have to friend you, it's a two-way street. With a professional page, they can just like you. You can't govern who's liking you or not. With a personal page, you can do individualized invitations to people, so you can pick out from your list who you might want to, post an event to. It's sort of all or nothing on the professional page. And there's what else?
It's a different way. They're
Different
distinguishing
sizes.
between the kind of entity that you are using Facebook as. Like, so if you're using it as a company or as a product or something that you're trying to promote, you have less access to personal interaction as a page. But it's a good thing to have a page because some people will rather like the page and kind of see what kind of product offerings you're with, and they can check and they can see what your hours are, different things like that. But
So
like
like
on your
hours?
personal page, you might not have like your business hours.
Right.
So it's just like the difference between you as a professional, individual human being, and then your work.
Is that two different Facebook pages and accounts?
No,
There's a user account and then there's a page. So the page is the business, the project, the entity that you want to promote. And then there's the user. And so every entity, like project, like whether it be or business that has a Facebook page, is connected to a user.
And
So it's kind of like it's like just to sign up, you got to be a user, and then if you want to use it on a different level for a different purpose, then you that's the reason why Facebook pages can be helpful.
the other thing is that a page can have an unlimited number of people in your audience. So that's, musicians choose this because they have hundreds of thousands of people sometimes who like them that they want to connect with. Whereas there's a limit on personal pages for that. It's
There is, but
5,000.
they introduced following, so
They
people
introduced following, that's
people
right.
can follow you. I see people that follow me. I don't know what that really means. I guess maybe they see my public status.
Right,
updates.
not friends of yours, they're seeing it, but they're still seeing everything you put in
Yeah.
public.
That I-
Just as if they were following you on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you want to choose well what you pick. Like, for instance, Somerville newspaper picked a format that they picked a personal page at first for their format. And so it got very quickly taken up. 5,000 people for a newspaper is nothing. So now they have to start another page. Okay, so now what do you do?
Also, a page can have, I don't know how often artists will want to do this, but a page can have more than one administrator in charge of it. So
Yes.
if you're like, if you have a collaborative project
That's a
with
good
2 or 3
point.
other artists, you can have all 3 of them.
Yes.
You have a page for that project and have all 3 of you be administrators of it and people post to
Yes,
it.
good point. Do we want to tweet something? Do we want to all tweet something? Something in unison that blows the circuit?
What's that trend?
I'm really into the donuts. You can say something about donuts.
Maybe what you're most excited about for SOS.
Oh yeah, what's your most excited? That's great. And then you, what are you most excited about concerning SOS? What's the most exciting thing?
Okay, I'm gonna do. It's gonna be very boring watching you do this. But I'm excited actually actually to go home afterwards and kind of see how everybody is using and relating to the technology, and what questions you have. Tweet me if something comes up that you want to talk a little bit more about. And it's 140 characters. I can spare 140 characters. So I'm just more interested in how you're using the mediums, and what you like, what you don't like. Because you do have a limit of 140 characters. Sometimes if the hashtag is not like completely abominable, I put it in the conversation so that it's not taking up two sets of characters.
And you can also make it part of your sentence in a way.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I like to hashtag talk SOS. So it can be part of the thought.
One thing in Twitter is if you have like a really long URL, that doesn't count all that it gets to your limit because it gets condensed into a smaller characters.
Right.
So
And and that's
sort of behind your back, it turns into like 8 or 9 characters instead of 30 or 40 that you may have had to have in your URL.
I think you want to, when you're on these different platforms, Twitter especially, you want to take some time to listen to what other people are saying, and how other people are using it, because that's a lot of times people use these technologies that have been developed for things that the creators didn't even think about, and it might be useful for you. And the more you listen, the more you understand, you're actually getting to hear the voice of the people that you want to reach and get into your studio. What do they care about? And you can interact with them one-on-one, but really I think is to be open to listening, to connecting, to collaborating, and to give it was it you were saying earlier, just not necessarily always having to be about yourself, promote other people's stuff. That is the best way to get connections and relationships. And in life and on technology mediums. Like champion other people and
come back.
Pay it forward into the universe, whether that person does it for you or somebody else does. The good energy, it all comes around.
So somebody wonders here, I'm in 2 local artists co-ops and I'm wondering how we can get customers into our store when business is very slow. Well, promote other people who do it too. This question is really for something that is a program. It's not one thing. It's not one thing, and it's also not something that's an isolated thing that one does. It's kind of like a gallery situation. The gallery sometimes is promoting the person, their artist, but really they have to promote themselves. And that's what they emphasize is their brand. So, but what makes their brand look good is the people that they show. So if you
a quick way to do that is to just pictures of what you've got going on, like behind the scenes thing. Oh, the artist was here. Just like little things like that get people interested, because people kind of it's like a less guilty pleasure version of like an Access Hollywood thing. That's the reason why those things have just like exploded, because people like to know what's going on behind the scenes, and you can share stuff that's not sensitive public, or sensitive information that's public, and somebody might see in their feed, oh, okay, this gallery has this painting. I walked by this gallery on my way home, or oh, I could take a little bit of extra time at lunch, or do whatever. Share what other people are creating about your business, your product, your project, because a lot of times that's the best resource, is if you've got people out there taking pictures and posting them to Instagram, sharing those kinds of things, being like, it's not just me saying that I'm amazing. These people also clearly understand what I'm getting at, so.
Right. Exactly. There's one or two other questions here. So how can an artist identify, connect with collectors, potential buyers? So that's the next talk. How do you turn publicity into shows and sales? Well, all of this that we're talking about is that. It is, they're not two separate things. They're somewhere along the spectrum of relationship. And I've found, and other people who have shared this with me have also found that you don't get anybody to buy anything by asking them to do it. You don't know if they want to do it, right? So you want to put them in a position where they can enjoy, and if you have selected among the people who you're trying to attract to your studio, the ones that have already got some interest in this. Remember what I said about lions and robots or whatever. If you were drawing lions, then you should invite somebody from Franklin Park Zoo. You should let them know you're drawing lions or taking pictures of lions or whatever. So they'll come over, and if you're doing it in some cute, interesting, fun, or exquisite way, they're going to be interested. Not too many people do specialize in doing art of lions. It may sound boring to some of us, but for the people who do it, right? I mean, you could do cartoons of lions. I mean, how crazy is cartoons of lions and robots? Not too many people do that. So there's your small audience, and if somebody likes that, of course they're going to come see it. So that's how you provide that continuum that may lead to a sale.
I think one thing, there's a friend of mine who is an awesome foundation fellow award winner I've gotten to know since then. He does street art, and so and he has years of pictures of things from the late 90s and 2000s in different countries and working with different artists. And he posts a thing of the day. And then that starts the conversations, and he posts, "So this is what I'm working on," right? And I swear to God, it's the most interesting thing. He posts pictures of his baby, but he does arts, arts and things with mustaches, and it's an engaging way to kind of deepen the connection with people who are following you on there. And I don't necessarily know that he's doing that in a calculated way, but I just know it's really effective, and that I pay attention to my awareness of his work and what his current uses is definitely much higher than somebody who's maybe holding a little bit back on that.
Yeah. And the same person asks, what do people really want to hear about? Shows and work. Well, they want to hear about you. They want to hear about you, which I hope is evident from the first part of this conversation. And the other thing I'm reminded of is that people do not really understand art. We are in it, so it's like the water we swim in. But a lot of people don't really have a clue, and they're a little bit afraid. People who walk in your studio and are a little bit timid, and they're not sure if they should sit down, or where they should stand, or whether they should ask questions.
They don't know if they're bothering you.
They don't know if they're bothering you. So a lot of people have no insight into this world, and so they're a little bit afraid of it. So what you want to share is, the things that make it easy for people to understand. Some things are very obvious, how did you do this? How long did it take you to do stuff that you don't want to answer in person because they ask it again and again. But very obvious stuff like that. How, what about this? Is this? Well, what is an acid gel paint anyway? Explain that. Maybe have a little video of you using it in some way that people can look at. Because people are fascinated by how things goes out. Fascinated by how people draw things, right? That's actually the best, all the rest of it happens, right? So share, share what it is that you do in all of its unfinished, glorious, immediacy. We still have half an hour here, and I'd like to take some questions. Yes?
When I used to do craft shows years ago, I would often get, why should I pay $30 for the cup when I can get one at Great Barrel for $2?
And
I always said, well, handmade by me.
so I know, I would probably be a little less polite about that.
Yes.
Yes. And
But you do get that as far as the craft shows.
Some people are gonna get it and some people aren't.
Get it.
yeah, so that's all.
So you just chalk it up to,
Yeah, okay, whatever.
he's gonna go to Great Barrel.
That's all right. That's right.
That person's like we're interested in something utilitarian and not something artistic, but
Yeah.
that's,
People don't go to Crate and Barrel and ask, why are you being?
Those things are so much more.
Right. Can I actually ask something to that? Yeah. Mugs, like thinking of ways to sell your individual product in that scenario, mugs actually have a way of fitting in your hand properly. So if handmade mugs typically, I'm sorry this is so specific, but handmade mugs typically fit into someone's hands a little bit better. So getting to know what it is that you're selling and those little tiny things that you have a specific answer to is a good way to sell.
Yes.
So you can say things like, Crate and Barrel, whatever, mass produces, they don't consider things like how this mug is going to fit in your hand. Yeah, feel 3 different ones, see which one fits best. And then you're making them choose which one they like the most, and that's a step closer to the sale. Yeah, so there's different things that, Well, so that again is a level, a very specific level of engagement. Yeah. And there are artists who have people actually work on their art. It's collaborative. We'll get involved with that. And then they sell it. And you get involved with it. Any other questions?
Are there particular times you recommend Instagram over another?
Instagram is great because it has its own sort of following to it. It posts to Facebook very well. I think there was some sort of Twitter, Instagram fight. So like when you post an Instagram link to Twitter, it doesn't automatically display the image, at least in the native web. I can't remember the technical term for it, but on the Twitter website. So that's the thing to really consider. Is like, is there something you can create it and you can just push it to Facebook. So it's like not like you're picking one over the other, and also you have a little bit more control over different things that you can up the contrast, you can do frames, and if there's something to be added, with the different options you have for editing the image, then it's definitely good to use that. But I find that a lot of friends of mine, like, I'll just go through Instagram when I'm in bed in the morning, or when I'm like going to bed at night, and I will go through, and then I can kind of catch up on what's going on with different artists that I follow, friends of mine, and it's something I can do while I'm on the phone. It's very visual. It's in a similar way to Pinterest and Tumblr. It just kind of it's an experience, and I think that that's an effective way to reach people that are really into that. But if nobody or that you're trying to reach uses Instagram, it's probably better to spend your time figuring out where they are rather than trying to convert them to Instagram users.
There's another thing I wanted to respond to here. How do you get an article write-up from a major publication? This is also next time, but I just want to say that it's a little bit like getting into a gallery. You have to size up what your work is appropriate for, what level of publication is appropriate for, what they're trying to do, what they're interested in. Are they interested in something that's local? Are they interested in something that's unusual? And you need to build a relationship in some way. Whether it's with somebody they already know who can recommend what you do, or else on Twitter.
And also be nice.
And also be nice.
Be nice, really. Yeah. The best press mentions I've gotten have been because I was nice, and not necessarily when somebody was being nice to me.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How have I gotten, a lot of gallery people. I go there, I go to the opening, I take a bunch of pictures, and then I offer to send them to them so they can post them on Facebook the next day. How much does that cost me? Nothing. It's great. And they're all really happy. So do that. Do that. In a world full of Instagram and filters, filters, what is the best way for a photographer to promote herself and get noticed? Well, some of the answers that we've already given. All of these media will translate whatever a photograph is into something slightly different. So whatever you post has to feel right in the way it's posted. I happen to know. So my father was a famous photographer in a small field, architectural photography, and we have a humongous archive that is being sought after by a number of blue chip institutions, and there's all kinds of issues regarding photography which are very personal concern to me. I think that you want to first find who is going to like your work. You have to identify your market. That's really the first thing that you need to do, is find out, the kind of people. Do research. See who else does something similar. Go look at their mailing lists. So a great way to do this is, and I do this all the time on Facebook, is so I have a client who's a tea company. Okay? I don't know about tea, but I know about marketing. So when I go and look up all the tea companies and find out who they like, right? And then I create an interest list out of that. That's something you can do, and it's very cool on Facebook. It's a you want to talk about interest lists?
Oh, I don't really use those.
Oh, okay.
I just do my own page,
Okay.
and I do my Flex page, and then my personal page.
All right. So at any rate, there's a way of making like this unfiltered list, something that's not subject to any kind of algorithm on Facebook called interest lists. So I made up this huge list of all the possible people who are in the tea world, people who comment on tea, buy tea, go tea, people who have art associated with tea, all this stuff. Now he can look at that and he can say, oh, I can connect with these people, or I can see what they're doing that might be examples for what I'm up to. So that's his clientele. The same thing happens with your photographs of lions. So
It's also perspective too. Because like your father, because I'm pretty damn proud of the things that I make on Instagram. I think that they're better than anything I was able to do with like the point and click camera. But if I look at somebody on my feed, Eric Levin, who regularly shoots for glossies, like it's just not the same. No. It's like even the filters and stuff. If you are a photographer, you learn how to better use the filters to create clarity or focus in a particular part of the image, have perspective, that kind of thing.
Right.
I don't think you're competing with people like me.
Right. Another thing that you might do, which a photographer was talking with me recently. He's got images that are. He's very careful about his intellectual property rights, and so I suggested, because they're full of action and fun, that he would just post like snippets of them, like not the whole thing, because and they're large. So he posts like just little bits of them where there's all this stuff going on, which clearly implies other things, and people want to know what that is. So then they get in touch with him and say, well, can I see this whole thing someplace? And then he'll put them onto something that's online, like I think he has stuff on Flickr at a low resolution. And then, so people can, by then they're already engaged. So then they're beginning, so then at that point, it's appropriate to ask somebody, do you want to be on my mailing list so that you can see things as they come up? Like that. Anything else?
Are any tips for boosting the visibility of your website?
Oh, so a website is a repository, like a resume. It's not a social media thing. If you can embed social media in it, then it becomes more active. It's all about exchange again. So if you want to embed a Twitter feed, or if you do a blog off of it, so there's a woman online on Facebook named Joanne Matera, Joanne Matera, Mattera. She's an acoustics artist. I think she's Joanne Matera 5 on Facebook.
She's a book on acoustics.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And she has done this so well, and she spends a lot of time on this now. But she has a great blog, and she feeds it into Facebook. She has a tremendous following on Facebook. I've met countless artists who are getting in conversations with her on Facebook. So her method of keeping her website alive, which is a blog, is to, that's the platform she chose for her website. And now websites, of course, are things that are more blog-like anyway, like
Dynamic.
Yeah, more dynamic. So Google and things like that.
Or the Awesome Foundation website.
Awesome Foundation website. So this is another great thing. So Somerville Open Studios has a website, and you can put your images up there. And people actually do search it. People want to know when they have been to Open Studios, oh gosh, I can't remember this, let me see if I can look it up on the website. We had, last year we had, what was it, 1.5 million hits on it
During that month.
During just, like the couple of weeks preceding Somerville Open Studios. That's a lot of people looking. And many people find who they want to see, because they'll go through it and say, oh, well, I want to see just sculptors. Who's working in steel? Who does maps? And so they'll set up their tour that way. So if you were on a website where things are aggregated in a lively way, or in a way which relates to you in some way, this is Somerville, then you can. And the Awesome Foundation, you get this platform, suddenly you get this like speaking platform to project off of.
Just as my own self-interest, being here at a room full of really creative people, awesomefoundation.org.
Yes.
We do give out, in Boston, we give out 2 grants a month, give or take, just depending upon what the hotel is. And even if you don't get a grant, because it just depends on the mix of people that are at the meeting and whatnot, and maybe what we funded in the past and present. Like a group of people who are in a diverse set of fields are likely to sit around in a room drinking a beer and be like, oh, look at that. There's like a certain awareness that comes, even if it's passive and it's something that you don't know about. We really love seeing like the variety of different things that makers and artists are doing out there. So please go on and submit. We have events, sign up for our mailing list on the Boston chapter page. And we have awesome hours where we try and basically the money isn't necessarily the most valuable thing that we have to offer, which is what we came to realize very soon into 2009 when we started. It's connecting people to collaborators. Maybe somebody who knows somebody who can do this. sitting around and fleshing out your idea, and it might not be like our quintessential idea of the kinds of things that we're trying to fund or that we're, our whim is going towards, but, there's a value in connecting with the kinds of people that kind of gravitate towards things that are called awesome.
Yes.
So I encourage you all to go on and apply. I would love to recognize some names and applications.
Well,
Yes, if you start a blog, does it have to be all about art?
no.
Not at all. I mean, and if like, say you're an artist and you do some other things on the side, the person that set up my website was like, don't put that on your website, because I sometimes make some jewelry. She was like, then people won't take you seriously as an artist.
Well, I think the answer to this is it depends. You want to have focus. You have to figure out what your website is for. So that can change over time. If you are at the point where you're just trying to get the word out about what you do, then it might be more general, and it might include a press package. It might include little videos of what you do. And if you want to, at some point, because you do a lot of things to maybe announce yourself more as like a curator of things, or like if somebody writes about a lot of things too, or something, then you might want to put something on there that supports that better.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading. That's the one bad thing that takes you out of the moment.
It does.
So
It takes you to a different moment.
it does. It
Right.
does.
It's a much more constructive moment.
Yeah.
But if you construct it well, it can be fun. I wanted to say something else about this, is that a lot of people use this and it feels like they're advertising, It's like, I don't want to know everything about what the Museum of Modern Art is doing right now. That's fine, they're having a class. Good for them. I'm interested in somebody who's saying something about maybe why they can't get a burrito. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I thought of tweeting before, because I always have French fries before I do my talks. And I couldn't figure out the right place to get the French fries, right? And figured it out, and I thought, I would tweet. And I was like, where's the best place to get French fries? It's sucker. Right? Okay, so now everybody's going to respond to that, because everybody's got an opinion, right? So that might be interesting. I don't know.
I've noticed that I definitely get much more involved about my posts about tea than anything else. If I post about tea, 20 people will
I should hook you up with my tea contact.
I'm not really an expert.
Anything else?
How do you get any work done in here?
So I'm going to talk about this. This is true. I'm not a big believer in multitasking, because I find it really takes you away from actually being with something. It's true.
It's true.
Sometimes, I'm waiting.
She's just left figure, right?
It's just like this. So Joanne Matera, again, did this. She put this out to all the people that she is, on her Facebook page and blog. She asked them this question, and it was interesting what came back. People who are fairly successful and who do art all the time are really committed to this, but they really, they don't have the money to have somebody running an office for them. They basically spend 1/3 of their time doing art, 1/3 of the time doing marketing, 1/3 of the time doing life.
For me,
So that's one way. I don't know. I might not be everybody, but
I use it as an opportunity. Like, that took me out of the moment. That was a choice that I made, and mindfulness is definitely something that, personally, that I think about. So, I guess there was something that came to my head that I wanted to kind of put out there in the stream to interact with about later. And I just made a decision, but that's the important thing to point out about social media, is that it can take you out of the real life opportunity to engage face to face can enhance it. But it's like, it's
And
really
for some people though too, I mean, there are people who really don't like to be social, and it's a much easier way to be social if you can like control the whole thing, and it's on your computer screen. It's true. So.
Doesn't it take it away from the human contact? I'm concerned that people
Well,
aren't
some
being
people aren't really
able to
interested
talk.
in contact.
It's
true, or they have trouble. I have a friend, one of the artists I know is like, he's an agoraphobic. He's in real trouble.
Well, then that's great for him.
And it's great for
But
him.
then it feeds into his thing, and he may never get out of it.
He never gets out of it anyway. So.
It's a tool like anything else.
Yeah, it's a tool like anything else.
Like when I do illustration and painting, but also I use my computer as a tool. I do sometimes digital media, and sometimes and I scan pictures into the computer, they're all hand done, and then I'll go over in digital. But I also do traditional painting. One doesn't take it from the other. When I go to a restaurant and I really don't want to be bothered, I'll turn off my phone, I don't bring my iPad. That's important to me because that moment and that being with that person is really important. However, if it's appropriate, then I brought my iPad today because I knew that this is going to be appropriate time. And so you just use it as a balance, and it's one tool, and it's a free tool. There's a lot of free things that you can do with that. So, and it's great that you can be able to do that. You don't have to do for like paid advertising a lot, like you said.
Yeah, I'm so excited over it.
I know, it's good.
I know, honestly, it's just that there's so much available. This is a totally totally new culture, and in the past 10, 15 years, and there's so much available that one can use. Why bother with that stuff unless you want to get all wrapped up in doing wonderful layouts and designs and paying a lot of money? It's exciting, huh? It's exciting. It is exciting
because there's even with the record labels, Beyonce just did a whole record. She did no promotion for it,
exactly.
And it became.
And people are doing stuff, Amanda Palmer, puts her stuff out there, for free. It's a different. It's a little risky, but what in life is worthwhile. It's a little risky.
Just show this is Pat here. So when I came in here, like when I reviewed the day,
ceramics.
I have a picture of the ceramics here when I'm at dinner talking to somebody and they'll be like, oh, what did you do today? And God, I went to this place and it's so awesome. And these people actually made these by hand. Can you believe this? And and then this is me in the snow after shoveling. and whatnot. But it kind of puts a rhythm to my recollection of the day, which feeds me creatively, personally, as a writer and somebody who my own creative work that I like to do. It's a record.
Yeah.
So it serves multiple purposes. I wouldn't necessarily be doing it unless it was capturing a part of my experience that was compelling to me.
And I want to add again that what you said about just getting your feet wet. I mean, I never liked country western music, and I had a boyfriend who liked it.